I need to tell you something quietly because I have not said this out loud to many people. For 26 months I did not hear my son call me dad. Not once. Not a single time. And the person responsible for that was someone I had known his entire life.
I want to tell you about a counter lawsuit. Specifically, I want to tell you what my sister filed against me while I was in the middle of fighting for contact with my own child, and what the judge said when she read it alongside the evidence I had gathered over 2 years. Stay with me until the point where my son starts talking, because what he said, and who he said it to, and what it changed, is the part of this story I was not expecting. My name does not matter. I am 37 years old, a self-employed plumber from Leeds, and I have a son called Theo who is now 9. Theo's mother and I separated when he was 3. The separation was not dramatic. We were not suited to each other in ways that had been clear for years, and we were both mature enough to know it. The arrangement we reached informally was straightforward. Theo lived primarily with his mother. I had him every other weekend, and one evening in the week, and that worked, and we were in the way of people who have figured out how to be civil after a relationship ends. Fine. That arrangement collapsed in November 2021. Not because of his mother, because of my sister. My sister is called Karen. She is 41, 3 years older than me, and she had never approved of the way I had handled the separation or the co-parenting arrangement or, if I am being precise about it, most of my adult decisions. Karen is the kind of person who is always right in their own estimation, and who experiences other people's choices as a form of personal criticism. When my relationship ended, she involved herself in a way I should have addressed earlier and did not because she is my sister and I did not want the conflict. In November 2021, Karen told Theo's mother that she had witnessed me behaving in a way that placed Theo at risk during a contact visit. The specific allegation was that I had left Theo unsupervised at a petrol station forecourt for an extended period while I was inside paying. Theo was 6 years old. I had been inside for 4 minutes. I had parked the car 5 meters from the door and Theo was visible through the window the entire time. Karen had not been at the petrol station. She had not witnessed anything. She had constructed the allegation from something Theo had said to her in an unrelated conversation and had presented it as observed fact.
Theo's mother withdrew contact the following week. She was not unreasonable to do so. She had been told something concerning about her child's safety by a family member she had no reason to distrust. I do not blame her for the initial withdrawal. I blame what came next.
Let me stop here, because we are roughly 2 minutes in and I need to say something that I think is the emotional centre of this story. When someone you love is being used as a mechanism against you, the particular cruelty of it is that you cannot say so without sounding defensive. The moment I said my sister was lying, I became a man who was attacking his family rather than a father concerned about his son. That is the trap. That's how it works. I want you to hold that in mind as I tell you what happened next, because understanding the trap is the only way to understand how long it took me to get out of it.
I applied for a child arrangements order in January 2022. My solicitor was a woman called Priya, who had 12 years of family law experience, and who listened to my account of the petrol station allegation without expression, and then said, "We need to understand what evidence exists for this claim." The answer was none. There was no evidence because Karen had not been there and had not witnessed anything. There were no CCTV records from the forecourt showing anything concerning. There was no corroborating account from any other person. There was only Karen's statement.
Kafkas conducted their initial assessment in March 2022. The Kafkas officer spoke to Theo, to his mother, and to Karen. Karen repeated her account with the confidence of someone who has told a story enough times that it has become real to them. The Kafkas report noted the petrol station allegation as a welfare concern and recommended supervised contact only pending further assessment. Supervised contact with my own son because of something that had not happened.
I attended the supervised contact sessions, twice a month, 2 hours each time in a room that smelled of old upholstery and the specific artificial warmth of buildings that are always kept slightly too hot. And I sat with Theo and we did puzzles and read books, and I watched him try to work out how to be with me in a context that was entirely wrong for both of us.
He was 6 years old and he was being supervised as though I were a danger. I held that feeling for 8 months without letting it show, because I knew that showing it would be used against me. Then the stakes doubled. In September 2022, Karen filed a formal application to be joined to the proceedings as an interested party. She claimed she had a significant relationship with Theo and that her involvement was necessary to protect his welfare. Her solicitor argued that as someone who had raised concerns about his safety, she had a legitimate interest in the outcome of the contact arrangements. The court allowed her application. Karen was now formally a party to proceedings about my son.
I want to tell you about Karen for a moment, because I have spent 2 years trying to understand her, and I think I owe it to myself to say what I believe is true. Karen had always wanted children and had not had them, not for want of trying, and Theo had filled something in her life that I think she had not fully acknowledged to herself. When my relationship ended and the co-parenting arrangement made Theo slightly less accessible to her, I believe she experienced that as a threat. The allegation was not calculated malice. It was panic dressed up as protection. She had convinced herself that what she was doing was right because she needed to believe it was right. That does not make it acceptable, but it makes it human, and I have had to sit with that for a long time.
Priya filed an application in October 2022 for findings of fact regarding the original allegation. She requested that Karen be required to give evidence about the petrol station incident under cross-examination, and that any corroborating evidence she claimed to possess be disclosed.
There was no corroborating evidence. There had never been any corroborating evidence. When Priya cross-examined Karen in December 2022, she asked her 34 questions about the specific details of what she claimed to have witnessed. The times, the location within the forecourt, the position of the car, the sight lines. Karen's answers were inconsistent in ways that the judge, a district judge called Francis, noted in the hearing and in her subsequent judgment. Francis found the allegation was not proven.
She found that Karen's evidence was unreliable and that the original welfare concern had been based on a misrepresentation of events. She made an order that contact be immediately restored to the previous informal arrangement, that supervised contact cease, and that Karen's participation in future proceedings be limited. Then Karen filed a counter lawsuit
against me, personally.
She alleged that my conduct throughout the proceedings, including my cross-examination of her evidence, had constituted harassment and had caused her significant distress. Her solicitor filed the claim in the county court in January 2023. It was, as Priya described it to me, an act of profound strategic miscalculation. Because filing a civil harassment claim required Karen to relitigate, in a different court, the same events that Francis had already found her account of to be unreliable. She was asking a county court judge to find that I had harassed her by challenging evidence that a family court had already found to be false. The claim was struck out at a preliminary hearing in March 2023. The judge found it had no reasonable prospect of success and awarded me costs of £2,800. Theo came back, fully, every other weekend, Wednesday evenings, holidays. The normal arrangement that had existed before November 2021, and that should never have been interrupted. He was 7 by then. He had missed 8 months of proper time with me, 8 months of puzzles and books replaced by supervised hours in a too-warm room, and children do not understand why things change, only that they have changed. He adjusted. Children do, when the structure around them becomes stable again. He stopped being careful with me. He started telling me things again, the small things, the things from school and from his week that 7-year-olds narrate constantly if they trust you enough to listen. He called me Dad again on a Tuesday in April 2023. We were in the car on the way back from his football training and he was telling me something about a goal he had nearly scored, and he said, in the middle of it, without thinking about it, "Dad, did I tell you what Marcus said about the goalkeeper?" And he just kept talking, the story flowing out of him. And I kept my eyes on the road, and I did not say anything because I did not want to make it a moment. It was already a moment. Karen and I have not spoken since the counter lawsuit was struck out. My mother is upset about this. She does not say so directly, but I can hear it in the way she navigates conversations about family events and who will be where and whether it might be possible for everyone to be in the same room. I do not have an answer for her. Here is the question I keep coming back to, and I'm asking it genuinely because I do not know the answer. If Karen had simply told me what she was afraid of losing when my relationship ended, if she had said to me directly that she was frightened of losing her relationship with Theo, would any of this have been avoidable? Was there a conversation that could have happened in November 2021 that would have meant 26 months of damage did not occur? I have thought about that question for a long time. I think the answer might be yes, I also think I was probably not ready to have that conversation at the time, and I'm not sure she was either. What do you think?